Hello and welcome to the old Fliers. This young lady's story is extraordinary. You may not have heard of her. She was a British imagery intelligence interpreter during the dark days of World War II. What that is will soon be evident. Constance Babbington-Smith was born in October 1912 at Putnam in Surrey. Her parents were, we would consider, to be upper class. Her father, Sir Henry Babbington-Smith, and her mother, Lady Elizabeth Bruce, the eldest daughter of the 9th Earl of Elgin, making Constance a granddaughter of a Viceroy of India and a great-great-granddaughter of the 7th Earl of Elgin, the man who pillaged the Elgin marbles. She was educated at home, finishing her education in France. She found work as a milliner for Aggie Tharp, and then wrote for Vogue magazine in London. When her mother Elizabeth became ill, Constance moved to Weybridge to take care of her. Brooklands Aerodrome was nearby and she began to watch motor and air racing there as a distraction from her domestic duties. This stimulated an interest in aviation. On the 23rd of December 1936, she wrote as Babs for the Aeroplane magazine. In December 1940, Babbington-Smith was in the 5th group of Women's Auxiliary Air Force girls trained in photographic interpretation in the top secret photographic development unit, qualifying alongside Eva Holliday and Anne McKnight Corfer at Paddock House in Wembley. She later worked alongside Sarah Oliver, who is Winston Churchill's daughter. The photographic interpretation work concentrated on ships, but her expertise with aeroplanes led to her being asked in early 1941 to set up an aircraft recognition section. It was unusual for a WAF officer to head her own section without an RAF officer alongside. I think that should be prefaced with, despite being a woman. A colleague there, Ursula Powys-Lybbe, later wrote that Babs had sufficient strength of character and extraordinary singleness of purpose, together with a total dedication to the task, mixed in with a modicum of determination necessary to be able to assume able command of the new section. The unit moved from London after multiple bombings there, and she served with the Central Interpretation Unit at RAF Medmenham in Buckinghamshire, reaching the rank of flight officer. Serving alongside her was a brother Bernard, who was the photo interpreter, head of the night photograph section. In 1942, she made an uncredited appearance in the Air Ministry feature film Target for Tonight, along with her fellow Medmenham colleague, Squadron Leader Peter Riddell. In April 1943, she was briefed by the Air Ministry to be on the lookout for a long-range gun or remotely controlled rocket aircraft and some sort of tube out of which a rocket could be squirted. She had been briefed to look out for anything queer. Allied photographic reconnaissance from the air had indicated unusual activities at Peenemünde, the site of a German research station on the Baltic. In June 1943, one of Constance's fellow interpreters, Andre Kenny, made the first identification of two V-2 long-range rockets lying horizontally on road vehicles at Peenemünde. Examining a photograph taken on June 23, Constance spotted 4 little tailless aeroplanes taking to the air, which looked queer enough to satisfy anybody. What she had seen, it turned out, were 4 Me-163 liquid rocket fighters, but V-2 long-range rockets were identified from photographs of Peenemünde for the first time that month. On November 13, 1943, she was asked to look out for aircraft at Peenemünde which might be pilotless. Her search was underway when on November 28, a de Havilland Mosquito, piloted by Squadron Leader John Merrifield, returned with a sensational photograph. As flight officer, Babbington-Smith studied it through her stereoscope. She identified a ramp holding a tiny cruciform shape on rails. Her discovery, together with subsequent examination of many thousands of photographs of other possible launch sites and storage depots, indicated that a flying bomb offensive was being prepared on the other side of the channel. The bombing of the launch sites was given urgent priority under the codename Crossbow. Constance Babbington-Smith had the task of providing photographic material to assist targeting by Bomber Command and its Pathfinder force. At the end of 1943, Allied air forces had flattened launch sites in France. By the spring of 1944, the Germans had built less obvious emplacements in the Pas de Calais, and in June, Hitler unleashed the V-1 assault on London and the south of England. The V-2s began to fall on London in September, for which there was no defence. After VE Day, Constance was attached to the US Air Force Intelligence in Washington, D.C. to continue her work on photographic interpretation in the Pacific Theatre. From 1946 to 1950, she worked at Life magazine as a researcher, particularly on a series on Winston Churchill. In 1957, she published her war memoir, Evidence in Camera, which was the first narrative of British photographic reconnaissance in World War II. Because it was published before the revelation of wartime code-breaking, this book contained a measure of Cold War disinformation. She appeared in several episodes of the 1977 BBC TV The Secret War, where she discussed her wartime work as a photo interpreter as it related to the subject of the episode. Constance died aged 87. Thank you for watching. Like and subscribe to promote new material.